Have you ever wondered how to sort and store your children's books at home? Hi, I'm Rebecca with Parent Teacher Bridge. Here you can find the ideas and resources you need to empower you to be your child's most influential teacher. Today, I'm talking about how I organize my children's books in our homeschool. Now, before we get started, make sure you check out my 5 quick tips to immediately help your struggling reader. I'll leave a link in the description below, but be sure you check that out. I hope it helps you. And don't forget to click like and subscribe if you'd like to be notified each time I upload a helpful video for your child's education. Now, before we get started into all the details of how I sort these books, I think I should let you know that I keep books in several different locations in my house. We recently downsized and we're in a much smaller home. My dream situation would be to have my own library, and I have a checkout system and everything, the works. But I just don't have time for that, and I certainly don't have the space for that. So I used to keep the children's books in my kids' bedrooms. And they do still have some books in there, maybe in a small book basket and such. But I started using my children's books when I had tutoring students come over and I needed to give them some reading material on their level to send home with them so that they could practice. And having all the children's books in my kids' bedrooms did not make much sense. So I have 3 simple locations for children's books. One, I have a large bookshelf that I bought from, I think, Wayfair, but I will leave a link to that bookshelf in the description below, and you'll be able to see a picture of it as well. This bookshelf is quite tall. I knew it could hold even tall books, and it has several different sections, much like some of those toy shelves that are the storage cube type, and you can fit storage cubes in this bookshelf. I just have books on it. I also have a small bookshelf that I keep near our kitchen table, and that's where I keep all my beginning reader books. And lastly, the books are in the children's bedrooms as well. Now, those are sort of like a revolving door. They may trade out books from time to time. Each of my children has their own book basket in their bedroom with whatever chapter book they've been reading lately, or just a mixture of some books that they can look through just before bedtime. And they can switch those out just as if we were in a library, but without all the official card catalog system. So let's take a look at some pictures of my 2 bookshelves, the large one that I bought online and then the small one for my beginning readers. Okay, if you'll notice, the large one that I have in my living room, it's already divided into different sections. And I have some of the bottom areas for some overflows, such as piano books or school binders that I use from time to time. Beyond that, I have the books separated by genre, but you can also see that I have room for large books that normally wouldn't fit on a bookshelf so easily. And that's what I loved about this bookshelf. Now let's take a look at the smaller bookshelf. This is where I might keep some books that we use daily in our schools, such as some Bible story books or some actual Bibles. Then I also have a couple of organizers just for beginning readers. They're easy for me to just grab by the handles, take to my kitchen table if I'm working with one of my 2 children who are beginning readers or some of my tutoring students. This is the section of books that I pull from. I don't want those all mixed in with the books on the large bookshelf. These are easy to read books of all different companies. It's just a mixture, but I know that they're somewhere around the kindergarten, 1st, and 2nd grade levels. Hi parents, is your child struggling to read or even hates to read and nothing you have tried has worked? Get my free guide, 5 quick tips to immediately help your struggling reader. I'm going to show you the simple tricks that I've used for years to successfully improve children's reading and their confidence in reading. It's easy, it's simple, and it's free. Just go to theparentteacherbridge.com/reading help. You can find that link in the description below. Let's talk about how I sort these books. Now, of course, my dream situation would be to have a library. We have a checkout system. I would even like to eventually take time to put maybe some colored labels on the binding of these books so that they can easily be put back in the section where they're supposed to be. However, my children don't personally have a problem with pulling random books off shelves. We don't have a toddler or a baby in our house anymore. And for my own children, they usually don't notice books unless they are facing out where you can see them. So I'm usually the one pulling books off this large bookshelf. In that case, I know exactly where to go to put them back. But if I did struggle with where they go and what genre they're with, I would probably get some of the colored tape or labels to put on the binding. So let's talk about the way that I sort them. If you don't have a separate area for nonfiction books in your home, I recommend that you get one. This is an area that's easily overlooked by parents, but some children respond to reading much better with nonfiction books. It's just a matter of taste. They might find that sciencey books or history books are things that they're really into. So think about having that as a genre also. But these are my sections of books. I have a section for science. I have a section for social studies. Before I go on to my other sections, let's talk about those two. So we know that there are different kinds of sciences, life science, earth science, and such. I just put them all together. They're all science related and they go in that section. The same with social studies. So if I have something that's about community helpers, or if I have something about maps, or something about a historical character, it's all going to go in that social studies history section. I also have a section for chapter books. I don't collect very many chapter books because that's something that I'm comfortable with just having my child go to the library ever so often to get the next chapter book to read, and then we return it and we're done with it. But the ones that I do have that I like to reread with my children over the years, I do have a separate section for those also. Now, I used to keep holiday-related books like Valentine's Day, Christmas, Thanksgiving, Halloween. Used to keep all those in the social studies section until it got too large. So now I've made a separate section for holiday books. And this is something you will see as your library grows or as you filter things out and it may shrink, that you may switch around some of your divisions. I did the same thing when I was a teacher in school and I discovered, okay, this area is getting too big. I need to split it off and make another section. So for example, if you just have loads and loads of science books, you might decide to make different sections for life science and earth science. So that holiday book section came out of the social studies book section. Another collection of books that I have are classics. So that would be all those Disney stories you're familiar with, or classic stories such as Where the Wild Things Are, The Velveteen Rabbit, those kinds of stories that you've had from your childhood that you want to make sure that you don't forget and you share with your child. This would also include things like fairy tales and folk tales, Cinderella, things of that nature, all go in a section for classic stories. That's what I call it. Now, I told you about some of my beginning readers, how I keep those separate on a small bookshelf near our schoolroom. So I have them readily available for tutoring and for my 6-year-old and my 5-year-old. However, if you have a whole bunch of them from one author, you might decide to have an author section. And this is what I have going on, for example, with Dr. Seuss. I have lots of Dr. Seuss books, so I keep them in a specific section. I also have books, a lot of Berenstain Bears books, so I keep them all together as well. Another category is character books. So for this collection of books, I include anything from some Bible stories to some books about manners or sharing, how we treat one another, lessons that we learn. I mentioned the Berenstain Bears earlier, but they're actually an author collection, so they're all together, but they're kind of sorted with the character books also because each of the Berenstain Bears books teaches a lesson. So Again, you're going to see some of these divisions of books change as your library grows. You might decide to sort differently than I do, but I'm just sharing with you some ideas. The last category of books that I have is miscellaneous. And if it does nothing else, it teaches my children what the word miscellaneous means. So basically, they're my books that don't necessarily neatly and evenly fit in any of these divisions. So let's go back over those. I had my beginning readers on the small bookshelf so that they're readily available for tutoring in my beginning readers. I have my science books. I have my social studies history books. I have my classics. I have my holiday books, which came out of the social studies section. I have author books sorted together if I have enough from the same author. And I have character education or Bible books all put together. And finally, the miscellaneous books. As you see your library change, you may decide to divide them differently or to make one section, one genre of books grow a little bit more. Maybe it takes up more than one section of the bookshelf. You might even need to switch out the books with your children's bedrooms if you decide to use the book basket like I do. But I hope this gives you some things to think about how you may decide to sort your books. And you may even have some better ideas. If so, please comment below and help me out. Let's talk about some questions that you may be wondering about. So you might wonder, how do I keep them organized? Well, in the children's bedrooms, I will admit their book baskets can get a little messy. So as we clean their bedrooms, that's just something that we look at from time to time. And I'll ask them, are you done reading this book for a while? And then I go and return it to the main bookshelf where they go. I would love my children to be in the habit of doing that, but I haven't yet put labels on the binding of the books. So don't forget, you can buy labels or special colored tape to just put on the binding of the books, but you might want to get some clear packing tape to put over top of the colored tape so that you're certain that it stays, just like you might see in a library. And you can decide your own colors for your own section of books. Where did I get these books? Well, believe it or not, most of these books have been given to me or they have come from discount stores such as Goodwill. So we've got them for $1 a piece, less than $1. People have passed them on to us. Rarely do I buy books that are brand new. There are a few that I have from my classroom when we would order the Scholastic books, but it's quite easy to get a large book collection. I've had to filter out several times, especially when moving, and pass some books on to some other parents who are trying to build their library. Do I organize my early readers in any specific way? I've tried. But with the frequent use that they get with being pulled out, borrowed by other children that I tutor, and using them with my two youngest children, it just hasn't worked out that way. But again, they're just in two small storage bins, so it's fine if they get mixed up. It's pretty easy to find one. I just know that all the beginning readers are in that section, so whatever book I'm looking for, it's got to be in there somewhere. So how do you organize your books at home? Do you have a library? Do you have several bookshelves like I do? Leave a comment below. I would love to see your ideas, and I know my viewers would too as well. Don't forget to check out my 5 quick tips to immediately help your struggling reader. I'll leave a link in the description below. Click like and subscribe if you haven't already, and you can find the Parent Teacher Bridge on Facebook and Instagram. Remember, you are your child's most influential teacher.